Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Northern English Language Teachers Collaboration Network, Sabah, or NELCANS, I would like to warmly welcome all of you to tonight's Community of Practice session. We are live on two platforms this evening, YouTube as well as Facebook. This webinar is part of our ongoing series of the NELCANS webinar, where we aim to share best practices, where we also aim to share classroom strategies and practical insight to support English teachers. Tonight's focus is very interesting. Our topic would be project-based learning, the basics. So before we begin, let me share how the session will be conducted. We will have 45 minutes of presentation, and this will be followed by a 15-minute Q&A session. If you have questions during the talk, please type them in the chat box of the platforms you are in, and we will address them during the Q&A. For those of you who are with us on YouTube, you need to subscribe in order for you to be able to participate in the discussion. At the end of the session, we will share the registration form link and also the attendance code for you to claim your e-certificate. You can get your certificate right after the session. We also ask you to write your reflection on the Padlet, as this is very important to show our active participation and also help us strengthen our NELCANS activities. And lastly, don't forget to follow the NELCANS Facebook page for updates on our upcoming webinars in the series. Now, let me introduce our speaker for this evening. She is Madam Auzellea Kristin Mozihim, or better known as Madam Zell, the head of the language department of SMK Bongawan Papa Sabah. Auxelia's professional journey spans classroom teaching, middle leadership, research, and advocacy. She began her career as an English teacher in rural Sabah and has since expanded her work to include civic-infused pedagogy through project-based learning, cultural exchanges, and educational leadership. Alongside her school-based practice, she has developed a strong research profile in public policy, language policy, federalism, and educational equity. Through writing, workshops, public speaking, and NGO involvement, she continues to grow as a teacher-scholar dedicated to bridging pedagogy, practice, and policy in pursuit of meaningful educational change. She's also a Fulbright alumna of Florida Gulf Coast University, United States. So I would like to welcome everyone once again. Please tell us where are you joining us from in the chat box so that we know where everybody is from. Okay, so without further ado, I now hand the session over to our speaker, Madam Auzellea, to share her insight on project-based learning. Good evening, Madam Auzellea. How are you today?
Hello, Ned. Yeah, I'm good. All good. Very good.
All right. So what can we expect from our session this evening?
Well, I'm guessing those who are joining us expect to see what actually is PBL, because I know PBL is a buzzword. You know, we tend to say PBL that, PBL this, but do you actually know what are the components and elements of conducting a PBL? This was. I hope those of you who are joining us tonight will get a clear concept of what consists of PBL, and also the differentiation between a project and project-based learning. These two are different.
Thank you so much for that explanation. So we have people from SMK Pekan, Kota Belud. We have teachers from SMK Pinggan Pinggan. We have from Facebook, we have from Pinampang. Oh no, line no spotting here. Oh my. Okay, don't worry, it happens to the best of us. Yeah, so without further ado, I'm so looking forward to our session today. So the floor is yours, Madam Auzellea.
Okay, thank you very much. So can you see? Hold on. Okay, yeah. All right, so this is my screen. Okay, I hope you can see it. Yeah, all right. Okay, so welcome to tonight's presentation. Basically the title is project-based learning, just the basics. Okay, and okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so as not really rules lah, but a few things that I want you to do is while you are watching, I hope you're not just watching, but you are also taking some notes. Okay, so maybe you want to write something, you go grab your pen or pen and paper, or just respond to the questions in the comments. Okay, because there along while I present, there will be a few questions for you to think about, and you may respond in the comments, or you just write down in your notebook somewhere or your piece of paper. Okay, all right. Okay, so basically what is project-based learning? So project-based learning is a teaching method where students learn by actively engaging in real world and personally meaningful projects. So instead of traditional teaching where students passively receive information, right? PBL allows them to explore and respond to complex questions, problems, or challenges over an extended period of time. So the key word here is engaging in real world and personally meaningful project. That means, yeah, you are focusing on the real world, not real world, and also issues that are close to the students. Okay, you have to look for locally relevant issues that students can relate to. All right, so that it will feel meaningful. So it does not mean you investigating an issue outside of your district, for example. Like for me, I'm teaching in Bongawan, so it would be better if I explore issues in Bongawan for my students to investigate. Okay, and also explore and respond to complex questions, so they need to answer a few questions, problems, or challenges over an extended period of time. So an extended period of time here means PBL is not just it's a one day thing. It can span across 6 months, some probably 1 year. Yeah, but for me, I usually do 6 months. Okay, so the gold standard PBL, we have two aspects that we need to look here. So 7 project-based teaching practices. So this one is focused on the teacher. So as a teacher, what are the elements or the practices that you need to have while doing this PBL? So if you, as you can see here, it must align to standards. So as English teachers, we have the DSKP, right? Okay, so it must be based on the curriculum standards and themes. So for English, we have 4 themes. Okay, and then another thing is, okay, writing and speaking. Focus on the writing and speaking rubric. Okay, which is the CEFR assessment scales. I'm sure all of us are familiar with it. Okay, and then, yeah, you need to build the culture, manage activities, scaffold student learning, assess student learning, engage and coach, design and plan. Okay, so these are the teaching practices that we teachers need to uh, focus on while we implement this, while we implement PBL. Okay. Yeah, so as I said earlier, it must be based on aligned to standards, which is the DSKP. So in English, we have, for English, we have people and culture, environment and health, financial awareness and consumerism, and science and technology. Okay, so for PBL, since this is a language focused PBL as well, we're not just focusing on content. So as English teachers, we also need to focus on vocabulary development based on the theme throughout the project. Okay, and then incorporate the explicit use of language elements that will help students achieve a 6. It doesn't matter whether it is a B1 6, B1 level 6 or B2 level 6. It doesn't matter. For each assess criterion based on the National Standardized Assessment, OASA format, or SPM, speaking and writing format. So probably many of us here, we are thinking of, many of us here, I think we are teaching Form 5. I'm also teaching Form 5. And then there's always, sort of dilemma, maybe for some of us. I want to teach based on the exam format. But I also want to do PBL. I don't want to do exam-oriented teaching all the time. Okay, but for me, how I did this was, my PBL is aligned with the format in a way. Okay, but I will explain that to you later on. Okay. Okay, so the gold standard PBL. Earlier on, the green one is, okay, there's a difference, yeah. The green one here is for teaching practices. It's for us teachers to remember the kind of teaching practices that we need to have. Okay, the green one is different, and whereas the yellow and orangey one is the project design elements. Okay, please do not confuse these two. Okay, so the project design elements. So for PBL, we must have all of these elements, then only it can be considered PBL. Okay, like I said earlier, when Ned asked me just now, what do the audience expect? Well, I expect you to know the difference between a project and project-based learning. These two are different, but somehow, from my interactions with teachers and from the projects that they have done, but they somehow conflated PBL with project. So actually, these two are different things. Okay, so for PBL, you need to have all of these elements. Okay, so these are design elements. That means when you are creating a PBL, okay, planning PBL, all of these elements you need to take into account into the project that you plan to implement for your students. All right. Okay. So again, let's not be confused with, sometimes I think some people will feel that it is in linear, like you have to start from challenging problem or questions, sustain inquiry into authenticity. No, these are not steps. These are just the design elements. Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, so this is where what I want you to do is you okay, while you while I this talk about the basics here. The first one is challenging problem or question. The first element of design is think about engaging real world problem or questions. And then maybe while you are listening to me, maybe just note down some sort of a question that you have in your mind that you want your students to think about as the driving question for the whole project. Okay, so think of what are some current issues in your community or school that would intrigue and challenge your students. Okay, just note somewhere there. Maybe you can share in the comments. Okay, so this is the first element. So for my example is when I did my PBL is town planning or sustainable town planning or city planning, but I turn it into town planning instead because Bongawan is a small town. And then so the driving question for my students was I give them this: how can we build a sustainable town? Yeah, so the question must start with how. Okay, and then the next one is sustain inquiry. The objective is develop a plan for students to conduct ongoing research. So the keyword here is research. So we want our students to, just gather information regarding the topic or the driving question that you have, that you give to your students. Okay, so perhaps you can think about, list down resources, digital or traditional, for students to investigate the problem. So what are the resources that you will require your students to to have in order to investigate the problem or the driving question? So how, and then you also have to think about how can you structure the research over the cost of the project. So for me, what I did was basically just internet or interviews. Okay, I apart from looking for information on the internet, I also get them to interview their parents, their close family members who are living in the same town in Bongawan, and also their neighbors. Okay, and then yes. So the next one is authenticity. Okay, so the objective of this element is to identify ways to make the project authentic and relevant to the students. That means it's not fake, and it needs to be relevant to the students. So perhaps in your mind, you can list down organizations or individuals that you can partner with that are relevant to the issue. Okay, so think of how can you connect this project, the project that you have in mind, to students' lives or to real world context. And can you involve community partners or experts? Okay, so for me, what I did was, okay, the organization that I approached was Kota Kita Sabah. So it's a sustainable city advocacy group, but their focus was on KKCT. And the PBL that I did was centered around the environmental problems of their town, Bongawan town. Okay, that's why I get Kota Kita Sabah to look at my students' projects. Okay, and then the fourth element is having student voice and choice. So it is to allow students to make choices about their project, fostering ownership. So now I want you to list down various options for how students can approach and present their project. So what are the choices that you can offer to your students in terms of how they learn, how they demonstrate their learning, and the tools they use? So for my example, okay, I give them a lot of choices. They can choose one out of the choices that I gave them, but they can also suggest several approaches that they want on their own. The only thing is they have to tell me what they wanted to do. Okay, so I gave them maybe they can produce an article or a video or a brochure, a creative documentation, a skit, and yeah. So let students choose where they can develop their vocabulary and idea development. So okay, coming back to what I said earlier, this one, we are all English teachers, right? So they need to, so the focus will always be on language development, not only on content, presenting content, but you want them to develop new vocabularies, for example. So my topic was sustainable town planning. So in the course of them exploring on ways to create a sustainable town, Bongawan town, they learn words like sustainability, a few of them is like sustainability, and then waste management. Okay, so we still need to focus on the vocabularies. Okay, and then the next element is reflection. So plan regular intervals for student reflection throughout the project. You can do it during the middle of the project or at the end, or both. So maybe now think of 3 prompts or questions that will guide these reflections. Okay, and you also need to decide whether you want to do it mid-project or after, or both. So how do you incorporate reflective practices? Maybe you want to give journals to your students for them to write down their reflections, or just basically one-on-one discussions or whole class discussion or self-assessment. It's up to you. So what I did was I gave my students surveys. Okay, some of them are in different forms. Some of them are paper-based, and some of them are in Google form. Okay, and then I also did one-on-one interviews, and I also did 2 podcasts already. One is from the year 2023, and another one is from the year 2025. Okay. Okay, and then the next element is the critique and revision. So, so when we conduct this PBL, we do not just give them the project to do, and we never, look at their progress. We have to look at their progress. Okay, so give students opportunities to receive feedback and improve their work. So you have to look at your students' progress. How are they doing? Where are they now? What can they improve? Okay, please, you basically as teachers, we have to check our students' work, right? Yeah. So this is that part is essential to this design, to this element. Okay, so think about how often do you want to provide feedback to your students, and how can you create a culture of constructive feedback? So the keyword here is constructive, and what protocols can we use for peer review and revision cycles? Just think about these things. So what I did was I follow up with my students every 2 weeks. Okay, within the period of the PBL, it took 4 to 6 months lah. Okay, for me usually. So how I check when I give them feedback is, firstly, we have to look at their grammar. Okay, because this is a language-based PBL after all. Look at the grammar, the choices of words that they use, and then of course after you also have to look at the content, and then also well, from my experience, there will be students who would slack off. So that means you also have to be attentive to these students so that they can finish the project in time. Okay, and lastly but not least is the public. It has to be a public product. The objective is to ensure students create a final product that is shared with an audience beyond the classroom. So the keyword here is beyond the classroom. It's not, the students won't only be presenting to you but also to other people. Okay, last time when I first started to implement this PBL using these design elements, the students only presented their project to the head of English panel, and then PK1 and school principal. These three individuals are the individuals who are beyond the classroom. That was my first try. Okay, I did not want my students to present it to me. I want them to present to somebody else beyond the classroom. And then after that, then only I progress to inviting an NGO, Kota Kita Sabah, and it needs to be aligned with the themes or the topics that you want your students to have PBL with. Okay, so the task for you to think about is state ways that are achievable for you to do this in your context. Like for me, like I said earlier, what was achievable was I only called my principal, PK1, or the rest. I invited other teachers as well in my school. Okay, and then after that, then only I contacted Kota Kita Sabah, because either one, they are both achievable for me in my context. So you have to think about what is achievable for you in your context. Okay, so think about who will be the audience for the students' final product. So basically, audience is beyond the classroom lah. And how will students showcase their work to this audience? Is it in physical setting, virtually, or asynchronously? You have to think about that, and make sure it is achievable and it does not burden you as a teacher, because teachers, I know we have a lot of work already. Okay, and so what I did was my students presented their work asynchronously. So I get them to upload all of the products in a Google Drive, and I just send the Google Drive link to the NGO, and then they will evaluate based on what the students have produced. And there's a form lah, assessment form. I gave the assessment form to the NGO, so they assess based on that form. Okay, so this one is just to repeat what I said earlier lah. So remember, these are the teaching practices that we need to have as a teacher. Okay, and then so I will just briefly share with you how I did mine. So this is the project, the framework that I have for my civic-focused project-based learning. Okay. The stages, yes, we have to follow the stages. When I do this, I have to follow the stages, but the design elements, they are they're included in all of the stages. Okay, like for introduction, okay, firstly, introduction is important because, like for me, in whatever topic that you have in mind that you want your students to explore, you have to introduce to them the topic first and get a basic concept of what that topic is about. Because without the foundations, your students won't know what they are actually exploring or investigating on, right? And then stage 2, there's a group discussion, and this one is aligned with sustained inquiry. Okay, and then stage 3, interviewing the community. This is also aligned with sustained inquiry based on the design, the 7 project design elements just now that I showed you earlier. And stage 4, create a visual presentation. Okay, so that one is visual representation is, okay, student voice and choice. They can choose whatever style of visual presentation that they want. And authenticity, because after they do that, they interviewed, before they did the visual representation, they interviewed people. Okay, they interviewed the parents, the neighbors, okay, regarding the topic lah. It needs to be based on the topic. And then, okay, let's have a look at the framework. And then propose solutions. So this is where, because there's a driving question, right? So usually when there's a driving question, there must be a solution. Okay, so that is stage 5. And then stage 6, presenting to experts and get feedback. That is stage 6, the design element is public product, and okay, student voice and choice, as well as authenticity. Because by this stage, at this stage, their projects, they have already been given to the NGO, okay, or the organization. And then stage 7 is reflection. Okay, so reflection, it can be either one-on-one or survey or Google form, up to you. All right, so if you look at the middle there, I administered assessment, okay, because this is one of the teaching practices assessment. So I had a pre and post PBL assessment, the same essay based on the topic. Okay, so this is an example of the project that I did with my students. So the title is Envisioning a Sustainable City or Town, right? And then it is aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Developmental Goals number 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. Okay, so just a quick recap. When you design your PBL, it must have all of these 7 elements. Yeah, okay. And then, okay, goals for teaching practices is this one. Just to remind all of you, because this is a language-based PBL, not only content. So at the same time, your intention is to develop your students' vocabulary. Yeah. So a few considerations before you start. Okay. Firstly, is your capacity. That means, are you free enough to conduct this PBL, or do you have other commitments? I know for us teachers, we have a lot of commitments. All right, so we don't want to stress ourselves out. Okay, you have to think about your capacity. All right, and then institutional consent and support. What I mean by this is, okay, since we are collaborating with experts, with people from outside of the school, you have to get consent and support from your admins. Okay, in my case, I always ask my principal. Okay, I got him before I approached again, because I'm collaborating with an NGO, right? Kota kita Sabah. So I have to inform my principal that this project that I'm doing, I'm going to collaborate with this group, this organization. You have to tell your admins lah. And also because we are collaborating, therefore I have to issue an invitation letter with by using the school's formal letterhead lah. Okay, and then send the letter to the organization. So it will formalize the partnership lah. In that sense. And then as for the expert, for example, before I started the project, I have to ask Kota Kita Sabah. I have to ask the founder, are you interested in collaborating with me for this project? So you have to know if that group is cooperative or not. All right, because I know some NGOs, they are not willing to collaborate not because they don't want to, but because they have other commitments. Yeah. And then, is it suitable topic for your context? So you have to look at your context now. What is the issue? For example, like, okay, last time I did a workshop for this, okay, for the framework, and then a teacher from KB, from Kota Balut, he wanted to do something about the situation with the cow dungs in Kota Balut, tai kerbau in Kota Balut. Okay, so he that was his suggestion lah, and that's the topic that he wanted to explore for his students. How can the community solve this problem? So it is relevant to his context. And then availability of resources and materials. So you have to think about, maybe you are teaching in an area whereby the internet access is limited. So you have to think about that. And also maybe libraries, for example. So you have to think about accessibility of the resources. And then timelines and schedules of all parties. All parties meaning you and the students and also the expert. For us, for me, for example, I have to look at if I'm able to. Well, this is related to our capacity as well. I have to look at the takwim sekolah, and you have to consider the students, whether if they are having the exams, sukanka, or any other programs. I know some of the students, they are active in representing schools, representing schools for COCUM and all that. So you have to consider the timeliness and schedules of everyone. All right. And then students' age. Okay, so maybe some of you here are teaching primary school, so you have to consider whether it's particularly the safety of the students, okay, for primary school especially, because I did mention that for me, I get my students to interview people. That means they have to go out, interview people for the project lah, okay, as part of the sustained inquiry element. So perhaps for students, for primary school, maybe they can just ask the people around the school, like tukang kebun ka, okay, you can ask, they can interview these people as well. They don't have to go out to town, for example, because of safety. Okay, so but if you are teaching secondary school, I don't think that would be an issue. Most of the time it won't be an issue. Okay, and then lastly, have they mastered at least basic English literacy? Okay, this is a thing that we need to consider lah, because for PBL, before you do PBL, you have to consider whether they at least have a basic English literacy. That means at least they know how to write simple sentences. simple sentences in English lah. Okay, because if they view English, they still feel English is the foreign language to them. Like it's like they have never encountered English before. Then your PBL will actually sort of backfire, and it will stress yourself out. So because we are focusing on language development, and I mean I know lah, we have language, learning English somehow. Some of us start from zero, right? Okay, but my suggestion is, if you want to tackle the lack of English, it's not through PBL. So for BBL, they need to at least have they already have a strong grasp of simple writing in simple English, simple sentences. Okay, so from my experience, I've taught those at the back classes lah. I also did something on environment, but a very simple one. They have all of the design elements, but I cater them for those who only know how to use simple English, if you know what I mean. So it's not that complex. Okay, so the important thing is, when you plan your PBL, it needs to have that design elements. It doesn't matter the level lah, but then again, you have to look at the mastery of basic English first. Okay. Okay, so I've prior to this webinar, I have received a few questions. So one of them is this one: how do we actually decide what topic to use for PBL? Okay, so for English teachers, like I said earlier, choose one theme based on the DSKP and focus on how as the driving question, as I have shared early on. And like for example, for me, my driving question for my students was how to create a sustainable town, and the theme is environment. Yeah, that's how I chose my topic lah. Okay, and then another question that I got was, how do we even start doing PBL in the classroom? Okay, like I said earlier, make sure they have covered the basics lah, grammar and vocabulary. I know some students, they know how to write simple sentences, but still tunggang langgang, okay, in Sabahan slang. Okay, but at least they have some knowledge of grammar and English grammar and vocabulary. Okay, and the basic components of the topic. Like for me, I did on sustainable city. So firstly I introduced them what makes a city sustainable. So I showed them a YouTube video, and then I get them to understand about these 5 features of sustainable city. That's how I introduced the topic to them. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. I think 14 minutes, close to 14 minutes now. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the very, very interesting explanation on PBL. So before we go on with our Q&A session, I would like to invite everyone to have a look at our Padlet and to share your comments and to share your opinions on the things that you have done in your classroom or in your community, based on what you have done for project-based learning. So this is very important so that we can see your idea, your opinion on what you have carried out in your class, either in your classroom or in your community. All right. So there's a few questions that I would like to ask you, Madam Auzellea. For you, what is the challenge of starting or conducting PBL-based classroom PBL-based?
Starting it was, I had no issue with starting because I already know what were the design elements that are required, right? But it was the challenges was when to sustain students' interest, their motivation, their discipline, and also time. Yeah, that's why sometimes I plan it to be completed in 4 months, but then again it extended to 6 months. That was my challenge lah. Yeah.
I see. So how do you solve that challenges? How do you actually get the student to be motivated to sustain the project-based learning?
Okay, well, I told them that their project will be evaluated by somebody else, by experts. So, that will get them to become more motivated, because an expert will be evaluating their project. So
I
it's
see.
just like, well, I think part of them is motivation, part, and one part is scared because they are scared. Okay, and also they don't want to be embarrassed.
I
So
see.
that
So
is
so
one of the things.
usually at the end of a project-based learning session, teachers would often organize an exhibition where they invite um, people from the PPD or student or teachers from other school. Is that something that you are practicing as well?
For the time being, no, I have not done anything like that for the time being. But that is possible. Like for example, maybe you want to invite SICs to evaluate your students' project. That is also possible. But the teachers would have to be the ones to provide the assessment form. Uh,
All right. So I'm looking at our Padlet now. Uh, some teachers are saying that one of the challenges that they're facing is students' literacy, time constraint, and they also said that I find it overwhelming to start. What baby step did you take, Madam
okay, the
Auzellea?
baby
What
step that
baby
I
step, like how do you actually start a PBL?
okay. Let me recall. Okay, the first trial for PBL was I just go with it. I'm that type. As long as I already have the design elements, I just go with it. It was not to say haywire lah, but it was not that structured, because for me in my mind, I as long as the design elements are there, then I'm good to go. But then after that, I refine my practice. As practitioners, we have to reflect right on our whatever we do. So that's why I came up with this one, the steps that I showed earlier. This one, project flow. This one is more structured lah. But before this one, even existed, there was none. But how I start was just I think it was it was my motivation to have my students become more aware of the world. Because our textbooks, they are not Sabahan based, right? So I want them to explore global issues but in a local context. So that was my motivation. I wanted them to be more literate in that way.
I
Not
agree.
to like become very ignorant. That was my main motivation. I want them to be more civically aware.
I agree. Yes, yes. All
Mm.
right. So I'm further looking at the Padlet. Um, what is one simple PBL activity you like to try after this session? Buddy Yi say, I like to try a skeleton version first. Um, Also, family tree of at least 5 generations from either paternal maternal side. So these are actually very, very good PBL topic that we can explore together. There's a comment here in the Padlet. The biggest challenge is the lag time in understanding. I often have to explain the requirement several times before they get started. Do you face this type of problem as well? You need to repeat the instruction many times before the student can actually understand what you are trying for what you are asking them to do actually. Is this something that is common? Is this something that is normal?
Yeah, yes, actually, especially during the first few tries with the very first cohort. Okay, because I was trying to refine, I was also in the process of refining my PBL practice, right? So there will be times where I forgot to, like there are certain things that I forgot to mention during the class. I expect them to do this, but actually they did not do it because it was my fault. I did not, explain them to them clearly. So throughout my years of implementing PBL, I have to remind myself that okay, this one I must say it clearly to my students so that I don't repeat myself. Uh, so it
I
was all
see.
based on experience lah. Yeah, so I did
Okay.
experience that. Yeah.
Yeah. In my experience as well, I have to tell them over and over again, many times, several times. I have to repeat for them to really understand what they are supposed to do. I guess that's normal because that's how students learn. They sometimes some students they are a little bit faster than the other students. So this is something that is, I guess, something that is normal. Um, another another question that I like to ask your opinion on. How do you pick a topic? How do you decide on what to do for your PBL?
Okay, how I decided on was see if it's relevant to the students' lives. Like you have to I think as teachers we have to know the issue of the community. What are the main issues that the teachers or maybe the parents they always talk about? What are the issues in that particular town or the particular community or daerah, for example, or that district, for example. So you try to identify because it needs to be authentic. Yeah, that's why you need to be aware of the what are people talking about. What are the main issues that are people talking about when it comes to that particular community. So before you start and when you try to choose a topic, you have to do that first lah. You have to be aware, and then you decide on the topic and align it with our DSKP. And that's what I did. I decided for now I only have the theme of environment because I've only implemented this project to two cohorts. Okay, so environment, and it's also because Bonn is a small town whereby everybody knows what's going on with the town, with the environmental issue with that town. And even as a teacher who is not from there, when I look at the projects and I became aware of the issues of that particular town. So I actually also learned a lot from my students when they created their products. Yeah.
Right. Madam Auzellea, there's a comment here in Padlet. Um, one of the one of the PBL activity that a teacher would like to conduct is dealing with stray cats and dogs. What do you think about that type of topic? Dealing with stray cats and dogs. You
Stray
mentioned
cat.
something about the community. I guess in Sabah we can see stray dogs almost everywhere. So what is your opinion on this type of topic?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting topic. As long as if it's really, you know, it's an issue that concerns that community and needs to be addressed, and you want your students to have, to apply their critical thinking, their creativity or innovative ideas, then by all means do it. I think it aligns with environment. If I'm not mistaken, environment is not only green, the trees and all that, but it's also on animals. Yeah. I
I
think you
guess
can go
it's
ahead with that.
also deals with the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals, right, under the United
Yeah,
Nations.
yeah,
All right. So I would like to invite everyone to participate in our Padlet. There are 4 questions in the Padlet that we can actually participate on. Um, Zel, apart from sustainable city, did you do any PBL, any topic other than that? Like smaller topic, for example?
yeah. Smaller topics. Yeah, I did one with my Form 3. For the sustainable city, it was for my Form 4. It's for my advanced class. But for my Form 3 and for my class belakang, I also did one. Uh, and yeah, it's a very small PBL. But the important thing is all of the design elements are there. Okay, that's the most important thing. You have to center your PBL with these 7 essential project design. Okay, so for me, okay, in that class there were there were around 30 students, so I divided them into several groups. One group 5 people. Yeah, that one as far as I can remember lah. And so they get to choose their own topic. Okay, and that aligns with student voice and choice. But then you also have to say to them that you have to choose between these teams only. Ah, so but they get to choose their own issues lah, and the issues are central to which are very close to them, issues that are very close to them. Like for example, they choose the topic on food. Okay, food that is under health. Okay, so they explore the restaurants in Bongawan town because there is a Pekan Bongawan there. There are a lot of restaurants. So they identify lah, they identify the problems there and then provide solutions on how to solve that problem. For example, and there are a few that focus on those that I can remember is the river near Bongawan. That is on environment lah. So they get to choose their own topics and provide solutions. But like I said, these are kelas belakang whereby their English is not that they can write simple sentences, but we as teachers, for me what I did was I gave them templates lah, and then they fill in the blanks. But then the templates are geared towards them finding the solution for their problems. So it's a general template. Any topic can be used for the template, and they just fill in the blanks. That is for kelas belakang lah. Because I also want them to have that to get into researching, sustain inquiry, and answer a challenging problem or question, and investigate the problems in their community. Yeah.
Very interesting. I really love that you are also focusing on the weaker classes, kelas belakang kan, because I think it's very important for them to be able to deal with the real issue of the community, although they are considered weak classes. But I think it's very important for them to be able to be aware of their surrounding, especially in terms of issues in their community. Madam Auzellea?
And another
Yes.
thing in regards to that, like these weaker classes, they are weak in English, but they are not weak in critical thinking. That's the thing
Exactly. Yes.
that I noticed.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the thing that all of us teachers here we have to understand lah.
They might be weak in English, but actually they can present their idea. It's just that they are weak. They couldn't express themselves due to their limitation of English language, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how about for exam classes? Do you think we should conduct PBL for exam classes? Because there are teachers that I know who are a little bit reluctant to conduct PBL because they want to focus on exam-based activities. What do you think about that?
Okay. I think I mentioned this briefly earlier. Okay, so conventionally Form 5 teachers will teach Form 4, right? Okay, and for this particular framework, this project flow, I implemented this project flow, I implemented it with my Form 4. I start with Form 4, but I already aligned the assessment part with SPM writing, either essay part 2 or article part 3. So as teachers, we create the questions based on the topic. So and also how it is aligned with the exam question, because we have, for example I chose environment because environment for sure some questions will come out environment, either in writing reading in the other of the papers lah. Okay, so it is already you want to focus on the format, right? Format oriented as well. That's what I also did. When I created this framework, I took into account of how can this be aligned with SPM. Because I conducted these 7 stages for my Form 4, which is the class that will focus on SPM lah. It is possible. I've done it with two cohorts. It is possible. So for the pre and post PBL here, administer the same essay. So it's stated that based on SPM writing. So it's really SPM focused. But at the same time, through this PBL, you can develop their vocabulary, develop their critical thinking, which are also essential for speaking and writing. Speaking and writing, because there are open-ended questions, right? When especially in like writing part 2, okay, and also in part 3, okay. So that's where you train the students to think, and also at the same time develop their vocabulary.
Yeah, that was actually my one of my challenges, because oftentimes when dealing with PBL, people say teachers say that we always do writing, we always focus on writing, but actually we can involve all the other skill, especially speaking. And I was having problem integrating speaking in my PBL actually. Not until I know about the gold standard way. At the end of PBL, we have presentation, we have group discussion as well. And how
Mm.
about you? How do you integrate the language skills, speaking, listening, reading, and everything in PBL?
Okay, so apart from writing essay, that one is writing, but for speaking, I also did a after the whole thing, after they created the whole thing, okay, habis sudah everything, then I administer the speaking test, part 3. Part 3 speaking, I I created the questions based on the topic that they have explored for PBL for the throughout the 4 to 6 months. Yeah, so I created the format is aligned with the part 3 speaking lah. So the speaking part is towards the end, and see whether they can speak based on the knowledge that they have gathered throughout them doing the PBL. Uh,
Yes,
that's how I did it.
I completely agree with you, because um, I came across teachers who don't really they are doing PBL, but they are not really sure how to integrate the language skills. Like they are focusing more on writing as opposed to the other skills. So I think that's a very good opinion. Okay, so thank you so much for your time, Madam Auzellea. Um, Thank you so much also to everyone who has been here joining us. So we are going to share the registration link. It is actually in the form of Google form, where you need to fill in your details, and after that there will be a section where you need to key in the attendance code. So usually you will receive the e-certificate a few minutes after you have submitted the form, but it could also it could also be um, it will also be like 24 hours to 48 hours before you can receive your e-certificate. If that happens, please let us know. You can uh, private message us on Facebook as well as Telegram if you are in our Telegram group. The registration form has been shared, and the attendance code is Nalkan PBL. Nalkan PBL. I'm going to share it in our chat box, because there will be a section where you need to key in this. You have to be very careful with this, the spelling of the code, because if you type it wrongly, you will not get the e-certificate. Now that is our Nalkan's PBL. That is our attendance code. So you can copy and paste that to the Google form. If you encounter any problem, please contact us by Facebook, or you can contact us if you are in our Telegram group. Please contact us in Telegram as well. So, Madam Auzellea, any last word for our teachers this evening? For those who are actually just about to start their PBL journey, do you have any advice for them?
Okay, my advice is firstly, I hope you already know the differences between a project and project-based learning. That is essential, because I see a lot of teachers they make this mistake. And then secondly, when you start, just remember the design elements. And yeah, if you have problems starting, maybe you can just follow the framework that I showed you. I'm not sure if any of you took a picture of it, but if you want to contact me, how can they contact me? Through email lah. My
Yeah, through
email
email. Can
is,
you write your email here?
how to write the email?
Go to comments.
Oh, comments. Hold on.
Yeah,
Where is,
it's on top
comments?
there.
Okay. Okay, I see it. All right. So this is my email, and you want to get in touch with me and ask me about the framework or just the design elements, please feel free to send me the email. Okay.
Thank you so much, Madam Zell. My last question for you. My last question. Okay. So they are opinions. They are people who said that they shouldn't, because sometimes we have this PBL competition where they
uh,
showcase their PBL competition. What is your
yeah.
opinion on this matter?
My opinion on that matter is the organizers, they also have to understand the design elements. Okay, because I'm afraid otherwise there will be the organizers who, they conflate project with project-based learning. So they have to also understand what are the principles behind PBL and the design elements. And as for those who are participating PBL, it's the same thing. When they do PBL, they have to, especially if their students are doing it, make sure the students understand what they are doing, because the students will be the ones explaining what they have been doing, right? As the reflection, because the reflection is the most important part when they present. Okay, so the teacher who is helping out the students, the participating students, they also need, like I said lah, they need to understand what is PBL, and they have to make sure that when they created this PBL, and when they wanted the students to do the PBL, they have already gone through all the seven design project elements. Uh, that is the most important one, because from what I from what I see, like I said earlier, the teachers, they tend to conflate project and project based learning. This is what is actually happening lah. Maybe because PBL is the buzzword, everybody is like, oh, let's do PBL, but then the design elements are not there. Ah,
I
yeah.
understand. So I see comments saying that. Thank you so much for your comment. I see comments saying that the Google form cannot be accessed. I wonder how. Let me check first. Let me check. Let me check the Google form. It should be working. Okay, so comment saying that they cannot get through the Google form. I wonder why. They are, but I have received 17 responses so far. So it looks like someone, I'm not sure. Hold on, let me check. I have received 17 responses so far. So it is actually working for some of you. Hold on. Okay. Try this link. How about this link? Can you access it using this link? Because I don't want to leave you without being able to register for the e-certificate. Can you use the new link that I've shared? How about that one? It's okay now? Is it okay? Okay. Second link, okay. So thank you so much, everyone. So again, I'm sorry for the technicalities, Madam Auzellea. I don't want to leave them without trying to solve their problem, because it's going to be hard for us to contact with each other. However, if you are still having problem with the Google form, you can contact us on our Facebook. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook. All right. So thank you so much, Madam Auzellea, for your time. Do you have any last word before we go for before we say bye bye?
I have nothing else to say. Yeah, I think I already mentioned, said what I wanted to say earlier. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for your participation. Please, apart from the Google form, please as well, please look at our Padlet. Join in the discussion in our Padlet. Your opinion, your comments are very very welcome, and it will help not only yourself but our community as teachers. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Madam Auzellea. I
You
think
again
that's
for
about it.
inviting.
Yes,
Yeah.
I will contact you after this. So
Okay.
thank you so much. Yes, Chegulio, yes, please PM me. Those of you who knows me, you can PM me. The code is Nelkens PBL. Make sure it is the right code. Okay? Make sure it's the right code. So thank you so much again. I think that's about it for tonight. I think you can copy the code first, and as well as the Google form, because it will not be available after this. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. We have come to the end of our session for tonight. It is a privilege for me, as the moderator, to be able to spend time with Madam Auzellea on her sharing about PBL. On behalf of Nelkens, I would like to sincerely thank Madam Auzellea for her valuable sharing, and thank you all of you teachers from all over Sabah, from all over Malaysia. We have few international teachers from Peru as well as Albania just now. Thank you for your time. So we hope you find that tonight's community of practice session beneficial. So have a pleasant evening, and see you at our next webinar. Good night, everyone, and take care.